Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Bryan the Duke David. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 59 of the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. My name is Aaron. I am your host as always. Joining me today would normally be Frank Janisch. He is out this week on assignment. He will be back next week. Joining me is Bryan Davids. What's up, man?
Guys, I don't have a problem with fun movies. I just have a problem with reviewers overly relying on the word fun.
Fun days ahead, apparently, for the old Justice League. Also joining us today, back by popular demand, if you will, he is the co-host of Heated Conversations. He is Booker T's right-hand man. He is Mr. Brad Gilmore. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Aaron? Bryan, I'm excited to be back, talk a little Schmoedown. 'Tis the season. We're approaching the spectacular, so what a great time to talk a little bit about Schmoedown.
Couldn't agree more. Well, let's get right into it. Let's talk about some news. And, man, some crazy stuff has gone down this week. I mean, we got, like, some Star Wars news. Things are off the rails. But most importantly, Schmoedown Spectacular has a date. Spectacular number 2, December 20th, is when it will drop. I'm hearing some rumors that it will be multiple videos. My guess is 3. That's just me. So it looks like it's going to be a super loaded Christmas era edition of the Schmoedown Spectacular. Huge show. Bryan, give me your thoughts here, man, about it dropping December 20th. Are we expecting something massive here?
Well, I like the logo, first off. I like what Brian Ward did. He kind of continued the trend of last year. He updated the color palette. It has that kind of that royal look still, as does WrestleMania in most cases, but I like the Roman numerals that he used instead of using 2, like Stranger Things Season 2. So all in all, I expected something around Christmas. There were rumors for a while that it might drop on Christmas, but 12/20 sounds good as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Gilmore, what do you think?
Hey, man, the spectacular, you want to build up to WrestleMania. Reality wrestling, we have Christmas Chaos. That's our big show of the year. It just feels right to have your biggest show at the end of the year. I never understood why WrestleMania has it like early in March, April. I never understood that. But spectacular, 5 days before Christmas. It's definitely going to be an early Christmas present. And I think this spectacular this year is going to be, without a doubt, the greatest event in Schmoedown history. And I don't think I'm overselling it here. I mean, all the storylines are going to culminate at the end of the year at the spectacular. I'm excited, guy.
This is going to be the best event we've had yet. I completely agree. And I just have this feeling, this gut instinct that, I mean, we always expect surprises, but I have this sense that the entire league is going to be flipped on its head by the time we go into Season 5 in 2018.
Bryan, I believe we have some cleanup from last week.
Well, I just want to follow up on something. I wouldn't say it's cleanup or housekeeping. I was just rewatching the JSR Samm Levine match, and I gave a little extra attention to the commissioner announcement moment. Again, I love the Thad choice since it kind of caught everybody off guard, considering Fredo Knapsack and Tom Dagnino were considered the front runners among the fan base. Now, Dagnino might have had the edge over Knapsack, considering the Dagnino for commissioner storyline had been percolating for quite a while. However, Fredo Knapsack, he led many of the polls since he's popular among the general audience, regardless if you root for faces or heels. However, watch Fredo Knapsack during Christian's wind-up to the announcement, as Christian was saying how this person knows this game, can stand up to villains of this league, and has been there with their nose in the ground, whatever that means. And if you watch Ken closely, right before the initial announcement, he sat up in his chair with a smile on his face, and then he straightened his blazer like he was about to be announced. That's when Dagnino came rushing in to interrupt the announcement. And then when the real commissioner announcement was made, that, of course, Ken again posed for the camera like it was about to be his moment. So perhaps I'm reading into this, but I wonder if Ken genuinely thought he'd be the guy. Maybe the fans got his hopes up a little bit. Maybe Christian got his hopes up and then changed his mind. So I don't know, but let's just file this away in the back of our minds. I'm sure I'm overanalyzing it, as I'm known to do, but if you go back and watch those moments, watch Ken. There's something on his face, the way he adjusted himself, that makes me think there's something more there. So am I just reading into this?
I didn't really notice it as much as you did there, Bryan, but that's the thing about Schmoedown. And if we're going to, break the fourth wall here, with any great story or any great storyline, there's always that little seed that's been planted, right? And make us think, see where it goes. And I think you might be onto something, or you might just be kind of a crazy conspiracy theorist. Either one, it's going to be entertaining to watch. Now I'm going to be paying attention to that and seeing if it pays off down the road.
Aaron, did you notice anything that would plant such a storyline, or am I just projecting?
I'm not sure yet. I'll have to go back and look at the tape, but the way you're describing it to me kind of reminds me of a little old school booking of, the champion holds up the belt to the number one contender who they're both faces, and maybe the contender looks at it a little too long. So maybe something like that. Maybe Ken saw an opportunity, Christian gave it to Thad, and maybe he looked at Thad a little too long. So maybe it could be something like that.
I mean, Ken's been talking about how he lost his smile. Well, he did kind of smile when it looked like he was going to be announced, or when he thought he was going to be announced. But can Ken really get all that mad about, a 2-week position, as Thad said? Who knows? But just file that away. We'll see.
All right, well, let's get into our first match recap. It was the Crusher, Rachel Cushing versus the Inglorious Samm Levine, Schmoedown semi-final tournament here. Let's start off with the promo and entrance notes. Man, pretty standard stuff here. A lot of respect between the two. I got to give a shout out to Rachel in the entrances for crushing a DVD of Inglorious Bastards. Of course, the royalties there go to Sam. Thank you for the 14 cents. That was a great line. Standard entrance for Sam. Pretty even keel all around, minus that great entrance from Rachel. So, Brad, tell me your takeaway from this entrance here.
Yeah, Rachel Cushing won me over big with this one. I'm going to be honest with you. Always a bit fan of her work. But, sometimes she was almost like the Dean Malenko, right? The performer who knew all the holds, could do everything, but there was just that one missing kind of element. Like, you wanted to see some more personality come through, and this is where she came through, man. And she came through in spades. I love the breaking of the DVD. She just had charisma. She had attitude. She has this cloak of invincibility about her because she's been on such a roll. I was really digging the Crusher, Rachel Cushing.
The man of 1,000 holds. I like where you're going with that. Bryan, tell me your thoughts here on these entrances and promos.
Well, I was interested by the fact that Rachel of the Year, Rookie of the Year, brought up the fact that Sam was supposed to be her initial partner and things kind of fell through. And my God, look at how the league would have been drastically different had that partnership gone through. I mean, we now have Above the Line, so it's amazing what a change in plan can do to the rest of the league. And both players, I'm sure, are quite happy with their current situations. And I love how Rachel crushed the Inglorious Bastards DVD. She removed the disc, of course. Some people were getting kind of crazy that she would smash a DVD, but of course she removed the DVD. Not to break kayfabe or anything, but I love the fact that in her promo, the post-production team added a sound effect when she did her crush. She added a little bit of I don't know if you'd call it an aluminum crush sound, but it was some kind of bonus sound, and I think that's just an excellent tweak by the post-production team, led by Aaron, led by Thad, led by the 20 other post-production guys that we don't really know all that well, but nice effect. It really helps the character, just a small little detail like that. And there was a mention of Cody Decker when it came to the baseball bat. Perhaps Cody brought that bat with him as he was in attendance, I'm not sure, but I just keep thinking about what Rachel would have done to a You Can't Have It DVD, but that's a story for another time. And Aaron, you kind of misquoted Sam a bit. I think he only gets about 1.5 cents on each Inglorious Bastards purchase. And I want to back up real quick, as to start the match, we saw something very different. We saw an ad for another mobile app. It was a Vikings mobile app of some kind. It's some kind of game that I'm not familiar with. I'm sure many of you are, but it's important to note that this is a very good sign, because we want the Schmoedown to be making revenue beyond the pennies that YouTube pays them. So if you love the Schmoedown, then you should love every single ad they show, because that ensures the show's future. There's no such thing as free content, since that's a fallacy that many people have adopted, even though our time and attention is a form of currency. So at least they've got another revenue stream besides our time that YouTube monetizes at a small rate. So this is a good sign. Even if you have to sit through an extra 30 seconds of promotional material, it is good for the league, and it's good for us if we want to keep enjoying this content.
Let's get to the first round breakdown here. At the end of round 1, Samm had 7 points. Rachel had 6. Samm's best round yet. Still a tight match here at 7-6. Brad, give me your takeaway here in round 1.
Well, I kind of just expect always Rachel Cushing just to come through and dominate. And 6 points is still good. I'm not saying that she didn't dominate like she normally does. But the Inglorious one, Samm Levine, I don't know. I'm always kind of 50-50 on him, but lately I feel like he's finally hit his stride, or maybe the categories have just lined up as so to give him the best shot of winning, because he's always, for me, he's been great, obviously, but he's been hit or miss. And I think this getting out to that 7-6 advantage, that's like, going in the octagon against Anderson Silva and winning that first round. And now you have this air of confidence about you that's going to carry you throughout the match. So I thought that getting that, even though it was 1 point, I thought getting that getting that 1 point advantage going into the second round was a major, major factor in this match.
Yeah, definite confidence builder. Bryan, what was your takeaway here?
Round 1 was a difficult round. The question 1, Killing Them Softly, this is a film that I actually love more than most people, since I was the first Scoot McNairy and Ben Mendelsohn fan, but I'm surprised that Rachel did not pull this first question. I'm starting to sense a bit of weakness for the Crusher in crime drama. If you consider Nocturnal Animals a crime drama, that was a miss that haunts her to this day, based on our interview a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I'm stunned that she missed the Winston question. Clearly, she hadn't watched Stranger Things season 2 yet. And just some tricky questions overall. The challenges as far as reaching the Holy Grail in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, they both pulled that out. Very impressive for both players. The Horn King in Disney's The Black Cauldron, that's where Rachel was able to take advantage of Samm and kind of tie it up. And it's interesting because Samm has gone out of his way, as he told us, to really fill in the animation gaps in his knowledge. And of course, whatever this animated film was, The Horn King, The Black Cauldron, whatever the heck it is, of course that was the one film that he hadn't watched yet. He made a reference to Josh Brolin being Mr. Diane Lane. Unfortunately, that's no longer true, but I respect the reference nonetheless. Very impressed by the mutual patent pull at the end, 7-6 Samm. So what an outstanding round overall, a more difficult round. And did Samm infer or imply that he auditioned for the Royal Tenenbaums? It sounded like he was upset that he did not get that role. And if you think about it, there is a potential role at that time that would have fit Samm. So we'll have to ask him about that offline, whether he auditioned for it or came close, because that was a very interesting reference to Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums.
I'll get right on the email about it.
By the way, one last thing. Mark Ellis kind of mocked Fredo Knapsack for his name dropping, which is something that Fredo is known to do. So I thought that was kind of weird, a weird exchange between the two. Sometimes Mark gets into these kind of tantrums where you're not quite sure if he's joking or serious. Because when Mark wants to be vicious, he can be very vicious. So I thought that was a very bizarre exchange. But Brad, what were you about to say?
The Horn King question, about the Black Cauldron. I think even if you're a Disney fan, that was a deep pull for anybody. I actually just watched the Black Cauldron maybe a week before this match for the first time ever. And first of all, probably the darkest animated Disney movie of all time. But I mean, that's a really deep cut. And I don't know about y'all. I don't know if y'all have seen the Black Cauldron, but I thought that was a really impressive pull.
I've never heard of this film.
Yeah, I never heard of it either. And like I said, I just had like this, bunch of VHS tapes that I recently purchased, and it was in there, and I watched it for the first time with my girlfriend and I, and it was one of the darkest Disney movies. I'm not exactly sure what the plot was. It has something to do with a pig that sees the future and a Horn King, but really weird movie, but a great pull from Rachel Cushing. I was super impressed by that.
Interesting. I've never seen the film. Interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and jump to round 2. It was Rachel was up first. She spun Steven Spielberg, stuck with it, went 3 of 4, got 6 points. Unfortunately, one of the questions that she missed was the BFG. She kind of kept dwelling on that during the match, but I mean, a good round overall. 6 points, nothing to hang your hat on here. So, Brad, give me your thoughts here on Rachel's turn round 2.
We talked about it on my last appearance here, and I'm sure you've talked about it before. The Spielberg thing scares me every time. It does. It scares me every time. And I actually thought, though, Rachel maneuvered and navigated through the Spielberg category pretty well. I mean, the BFG, I don't really know how many people saw that movie anyway, so I'm not going to really fault her on that one.
Not many.
Yeah, not many. But some of them, they weren't the easiest of Spielberg questions. And Cushing really, she kept her head down. She pulled deep. She came through. I thought it was a risky category, but it turned out pretty good for her.
Well, what's interesting here is Sam deferred to Rachel, which is something that she prefers. She prefers to go first, as she's told us many times. So I know it's Sam's strategy to defer. He's one of the big proponents of the defer strategy. He likes to play from behind, but when you know your opponent likes to go first, there's an argument to put them in the position that they don't want to be in. So if I was playing, I probably would have gone first, since Rachel does not like having to play from behind. So it's always important to know what your players' preferences are, what their tendencies are. So I know it's Sam's strategy. I know he likes to do it, but perhaps it's something to consider moving forward. Can't argue with the end result, though, so just something to consider. Now, Rachel Cushing, she spun Steven Spielberg, as Brad mentioned, as we all know, and I like that she stuck with it. She didn't try to get greedy by spinning again to get something else, but considering how many times Spielberg has been drawn, besides how vast Steven Spielberg's filmography is, you would think that people would shy away from it because it's been used so many times on the show. And there's this fallacy in regard to Quentin Tarantino, when he's only been pulled twice, that all of his questions would become obscure because he only has 8 films and he's been pulled twice, so all the future questions will be obscure. Well, you would think that same argument would apply to Spielberg when he's been drawn so many times on the wheels. So Brad mentioned that Spielberg scares him, but I was scared for a very different reason, in the fact that we've drawn Spielberg so many times that at this point it's got to get pretty deep in his filmography. And I do have to kind of fault Rachel for this BFG question. Sophie, the girl in it, the BFG is a film that has been drawn many, many times for questions. Sklisky has gone to that well many, many times. It's been a trend in this league, and we identify trends on this show all the time. Rachel listens to this show. This is a film that she's got to watch. Every competitor needs to watch the BFG because we've had so many the BFG questions. You got to respect how she bounced back, and this is the true sign of a future champion. You don't let a miss get you down. It's how you rebound. And she went 6 for 8 overall, getting the next 3 in a row. Horvath in Saving Private Ryan, Tom Sizemore, that is impressive. That is very impressive. The Jaws question, easy of course, but Horvath and Saving Private Ryan, very impressive. Question 4, Rufio and Hook. Hook is still one of the most criminally underrated and underappreciated films in Spielberg's filmography. I'm 34 years old, and everyone I know in my age range loves this film, yet people that are younger, people that are older, always seem to take shots on it. Rachel got it, of course, going up 12-7, but I am surprised that Mark Ellis didn't fire a shot at Hook, something he does every single time the movie Hook is brought up in conversation across Movie Talk, across Schmo. So I'm really surprised he didn't do it in this case. Perhaps they cut it out since he's known to do it so often.
Hey, I am 24 years of age, and I got to tell you, Hook is a phenomenal film. One of my favorite Spielbergs. I know that might be blasphemous for some people, but that is such a great movie. It is underrated. I watch it all the time, at least once a year. I couldn't agree with you more.
Bang-a-rang, Brad. Bang-a-rang.
Bang-a-rang.
I hate Hook. But let's talk about
Hook
something.
hates you too.
That's fine. Let's talk about something that I do like, and that was what Sam spun in the second round. That was David Fincher films. He went 4-4, got all of them for 8 points. So at the end of 2, Sam leads 15-12, a clean sweep across the board. Things seem to be going Sam's way here. I mean, he's only missed one question to this point. Brad, what'd you think after 2 here?
Was that not, first of all, to go back to Hook for a second, Dustin Hoffman, unrecognizable as Captain Hook. He did a phenomenal job. Allegations aside.
Gwyneth Paltrow as Wendy, one of her first roles, if not her first role as Wendy.
Yeah. Once again, just kind of slips by you. So anyway, back to Samm Levine. David Fincher films. If Spielberg scared me, this one scares the hell out of me. David Fincher is not a director I am well versed in. Although when this category, when the questions were asked in this category, I realized I might have known a little bit more than I thought I did. But Samm Levine, you could tell he paused for a minute. He said, "Okay, I maybe have a good knowledge base for David Fincher, but you could tell he studied the rest of the wheel and he thought about it. Is there another category that I would like?" He probably saw one, but then he saw all the categories that he didn't like. He didn't want the animated. He didn't want opponent's choice. So I think he went with a risky decision, but a calculated risk nonetheless. And to answer as many correct questions as he did, I think was just that what I spoke about from the round 1 was that continuing air of confidence that just was the through line throughout this match for Samm Levine. And I think that helped carry him through this round, the second round, and really just set him up perfectly for round 3.
No doubt about it. Bryan, what's your takeaway here? David Fincher, I think somebody will correct me, but I'm pretty sure it's the first time it's come off the board. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I had that noted as well. I think this is the first time Fincher has been drawn. And quick aside, Brad Gilmore, since you have a very good taste in film, as evident by your appreciation of Steven Spielberg's Hook.
I'll take that as a shot. Okay.
It absolutely was a shot at you, Aaron. Have you seen David Fincher's The Game?
The Game. Have I seen The Game? I don't think I've seen The Game, no.
Well, since you're not well versed in David Fincher, after we record tonight, I would like you to watch The Game, directed by David Fincher, starring Michael Douglas, Sean Penn, among others. It is my favorite Fincher film, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're really going to enjoy it.
I will take you up on that recommendation.
I know that you said that Fincher scared you. Now, per the fallacy that I mentioned, per the Tarantino fallacy as I just coined it, since this was the first time Fincher has been pulled in singles play, to our recollection, that means you're going to get the cream of the crop Fincher questions, the stuff that's on top. Because he hasn't been pulled a lot like Spielberg, they don't have to get deeper and deeper into his filmography. They don't have to get more specific because a lot of the obvious Fincher questions have been asked already. So I think Sam took it knowing that Fincher is new to the wheel and that he would get some layups as far as Fincher questions go. And boy, did he ever. This is one of the easiest round 2 selection of questions I've ever seen. Question 1, Norton's power animal in Fight Club. Penguin, of course, 12-9. Rachel Cushing at that point. Question 2, Michael Douglas, star of The Game. 12-11, Rachel Cushing at that point. Gwyneth Paltrow in 7, 13-12, Sam. Kristen Stewart in Panic Room, 15-12, Samm Levine. So all 4 questions were layups for the most part. The Fight Club one was a little challenging, but it's so memorable that, we're all fans of Fight Club, especially, Sam's generation, my generation, our generation. So you couldn't ask for a better selection of Fincher questions. And guess what, guys? We finally got a perfect round 2, something we rarely see between singles and teams. There have only been 9 perfect round 2s across singles and teams in 2017. So, like I said, this goes to show how easy these Fincher questions were because perfect round 2s are such a rarity. So I suppose Sam's strategy of deferring paid off. I mean, of course it paid off since he won the match, but the fact that he deferred to Rachel, letting her spin first, her preference, this set up Fincher, and obviously it rewarded him in the process. So I know I question his choice of letting Rachel spin first when she prefers to spin first, but it worked out perfectly.
You know what? You actually have a great point. As we were speaking, I looked up David Fincher, and he is definitely in the realm of the Tarantino with 10 films that he directed, 10 feature films he directed. Also, here are a couple fun facts about Fincher. He has won 2 Grammys, David Fincher, for 2 music videos he directed, one for the Rolling Stones in 1995 for Love is Strong, and in 2013, he directed Justin Timberlake and Jay-Z's Suit and Tie, which I found that to be an interesting little tidbit about one David Fincher.
Yeah, he used to go by Dave Fincher. He worked on Return of the Jedi. I believe he was in practical effects, perhaps. And if you haven't watched his new Netflix show, Mindhunter, it's a really interesting approach to a very familiar and saturated genre, the serial killer genre. So, however, Brad, the game, that's your top priority. Thank me later.
It's on the list. Don't worry.
All right, well, let's get into round 3. We can talk about Zodiac later. And Rachel was up first. She got the 2-pointer right away. Julia Stiles in the Bourne franchise, still 15-14 Sam at this point. She missed the 3-pointer. Alice Eve was the actress that was out of Jay Baruchel's league. Remains 15-14 Levine. So Rachel had to get the 5-pointer to continue. And, the Good Dinosaur shows up again as she got the 5-pointer. Sam Elliott was the T-Rex rancher in the Good Dinosaur. So Rachel takes a lead 19-15. We're going to jump over to Sam here. He got the 2-pointer. It took him a second. David O. Russell directed Jen Lawrence in Joy, an Oscar-nominated film. I digress. 19-17, Rachel still. Sam gets the 3-pointer here to seal the deal. William H. Macy and Philip Seymour Hoffman have both starred in multiple Paul Thomas Anderson films.
Name 2 performers who have appeared in 2 or more Paul Thomas Anderson films.
William H. Macy and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
And your winner, advancing to the finals, the Inglorious
Oh, boy.
Samm Levine.
What an incredible matchup we had here in this.
And the Inglorious Samm Levine will move on to the final, defeating Rachel Cushing 22-19. Now, Brad, before I get to you here, I got to remind people, it took a near perfect game from Samm Levine to take down Rachel. Now, Rachel's a great player. She had a great run in this tournament. I just want to let that be noted because we're going to talk a lot about Sam and a lot about the winner of the other match as well. But I just want to throw that out there that Sam had to go near perfect to take down Rachel. What were your thoughts on round 3, Brad?
Jay Baruchel question. I could see the girl. Well, I can't even remember her name now, but I saw her face. I knew exactly who it was. I'm sure that Rachel Cushing was the same thing. You could see the face. I know that she eventually married Vincent Chase in Entourage, but I could not nail down the actress's name. So I felt her pain there. I thought the Sam Elliott pull in The Good Dinosaur was a great pull, much needed pull for that 5 points. But man, Samm Levine. Now correct me if I'm wrong. This is his first entry into the Ultimate Schmoedown Tournament.
It's not his first time in the Schmoedown Tournament, but it's his first time getting this far.
Okay, so this is his second time. Okay, well then I'm wrong. I was going to say this guy is kind of entering this tournament like a young Brock Lesnar. You remember that 03 Brock Lesnar? He entered into the WWE and he did everything in 1 year. And I just have this feeling about the Inglorious one. I have a feeling that he is going to have, when we look back, he's going to have a history-making year. I just feel it in my bones. The way this guy is being razor sharp, like Razor Ramon, maybe? Is that a good reference?
Ooh,
He's being razor sharp right now, and he's so impressive. I think that we're witnessing, like right now, LeBron James, second greatest NBA player in the history of the league, but we still get to witness his greatness and his dominance. Maybe not so much this season with his team, but you know what I'm saying. He's the greatest player in the world right now. We still get to watch it. I think Samm Levine, when we look 1 year from now, November 2018, we're going to look back at this run and say, man, we got to witness the greatness that was the Inglorious one in this time.
Well said. I still hold a little bit of a grudge against Brock for beating my man RVD in the finals of the King of the Ring, but that's another story for another time. Bryan, what were your thoughts on round 3 here?
Rachel Cushing's two-pointer, Julia Stiles and Bourne. This is a perfect two-pointer. The type of question aligned with the two-pointer. So Sam had a 1-point lead still. And Alice Eve, I'm really upset that she did not pull this just because our friend J.J. Abrams gave Alice Eve some notoriety by inexplicably and unnecessarily having her stripped down to her underwear in Star Trek Into Darkness, that awful Star Trek film. So Alice Eve kind of got a lot of attention for that. So typically when these things happen, at least in the case of myself, when an actor gets a lot of attention for something, I usually do a little IMDb check, and I kind of acclimate myself with that actor anytime someone kind of comes up in the news for something so weird as that. But I knew the film. I saw it in theaters. Kristen Ritter. I'm really upset that Rachel did not pull this, just given the fact that I know she's seen Star Trek Into Darkness. People that are so knowledgeable like Rachel, they typically do a deep dive when it comes to actors like that. So I don't know, I'm griping a bit. I know I picked Rachel to win, so I'm kicking myself over this miss when I wouldn't be surprised if she knew it after the fact, as sometimes is the case with her. But her 5-pointer, Butch in The Good Dinosaur, as I've indicated, as we've all indicated to competitors on this show time and time again, The Good Dinosaur, much like the BFG, these are films that Tricky Skaliski loves to pull from. Maybe these are fan submitted. Maybe there's a fan or two out there. Maybe Corey Knott is a huge Good Dinosaur fan. Maybe Rossica is a huge The BFG fan, and they just keep submitting these questions over and over again because these films come up so often. And I'm just glad that Rachel gave herself a fighting chance to potentially win this. It was going to take a lot for her to win this, but at least she got that 5 to keep it interesting. Now, Sam's 2-pointer, David O. Russell, Joy, he needed the Josh McCouga JTE rule to give himself some more time. He converted. Right then and there, I knew that was the match. And I love when people use Josh McCouga's JTE rule and then convert. I love seeing the rule being utilized as it should. And Sam has told us directly on the show that sometimes he just needs a little bit more time to come up with these answers. And he's proving that when he makes that poll in this case. But to be honest, if you watch the Schmoedown, you would know this answer. And why is that, Aaron? Because it's a recycled question. We've had this question before. So I'm not going to gripe on this too much. I'm not trying to criticize the league or undermine it in any way. But when it comes to such a pivotal match like this, I really hope we can avoid recycled or reused questions such as David O. Russell directing Joy. Anyways, Sam's 3-pointer named 2 actors that have been in 2 PTA films. Will Macy, Phil Hoffman. This was a layup as far as 3-pointers go. Impressive nonetheless. God, I still miss Phil Hoffman. But yeah, that's the match, 20-19. Sam missed one question, guys. And of course, it was animation. As we talked about earlier, this has been the one flaw in his game. I love that he's been doing the work to make up for that flaw. He's talked about this at length. Brad, you touched on something about Sam when we look back at this year, this being the rise of Samm Levine. And it's interesting that you point this out because there was a time and a place where Sam was considered the frontrunner, the heavy favorite to win the Schmoedown title when it first started out at Collider because he had so much success playing a game on the Schmoes Know live show called The Game. It's not a trivia show, but it basically played clips from films, and he has to guess what film those clips were from. So everyone built up this reputation and assigned these expectations to Sam based on his performance in The Game. So 2016 just did not go his way whatsoever. He had horrible luck, not as bad as JTE's luck, but he was right there as far as luck. And like JTE, their luck has turned in 2017. More on this later, but I'm really ecstatic to see all the success Sam is having. Of course, there is Free for All Karma. My goodness, he missed one Question 1.
Well, let's talk about the post-match interview. We had Sam talking to Jen, talking about, of course, we talked about earlier, studying up on his animated films. He hates everyone for having to do that, which I could totally understand. And, you know, it was pretty standard stuff. But Sam is on a collision course. He will be in the final. I didn't have a big takeaway from this interview. It just seemed pretty normal. No one interrupted, which was kind of a nice change of pace. So, Brad, did you take away anything from Sam here in the post-match?
No, I mean, not a lot to take away, but, you know, great call right there about him only missing one question. And I think that you're right. He's had a great turnaround this year, 2017, starting with that free-for-all. And, I mean, just to go back to what I said, to reiterate the point, I mean, I honestly, I had Rachel Cushing going into this match. I thought that, in my opinion, she was the favorite. I was like, she's going to tear him up. All she got to do is spin Oscars, and this is all her. She went with Spielberg, you know, what have you. But like I said, starting off, when he went up 7-6 in that first round, I think that really was the tell for how this match was going to go. When he bested Cushing, I knew that we were watching a special match from what I'm deeming a special performer.
Yeah, I mean, you know, on Sam's side, pretty normal. On Rachel's side, obviously, she was a little disappointed. But still, I mean, not a lot to take away. Still not sure what's going on with the Nerds Watch. So just kind of so-so for me. Brian, what was your takeaway here?
Killing them softly, that's going to haunt Rachel for a very long time. The first question of round 1, I'm not taking anything away from his win. Sam is one of the smartest guys that we've talked to on this show. And a perfect round 2, it's an amazing feat. It's an amazing feat. It is such a rarity. Now, I think the questions were rather easy for round 2. However, that's the advantage of taking a category that has never been drawn yet to our knowledge, to our recollection. I'm pretty sure this is the first time, at least in singles play, that Fincher has been pulled. So, competitors out there, if you land on a category that has never been pulled before, I think Sam has proved that you probably want to go with it because you're going to get the stuff that's on the top, the icing questions. Had Fincher been drawn 10 times, then you're getting really deep to the middle of the cake, the dry part of the cake that becomes rather obscure. Now, the Tarantino fallacy, that's a different story. He hasn't been drawn enough to get too obscure. But let this be a lesson to always consider taking categories that have never been drawn before. Now, as far as hashtag Jen at the Wall, Sam talked about how well this year has been going because of his free-for-all win and because of what followed his free-for-all win. As far as his post-interview, I think he got some major karma as a result, and he's been riding that karma ever since. So even though my heart picked Rachel from the start to win this entire tournament, Levine's karma was just too strong. That has propelled him forward. JTE also has karma. JTE also has the luck that Sam is enjoying right now as well. So I didn't think it'd be wise to pick Sam to make the finals in both tournaments, but Sam is officially, as discussed last week, as a dark horse. He is now no longer a dark horse. He is a light horse as far as the player of the year running. And this is just an unbelievable turnaround from his 2016, just like JTE's turnaround is unbelievable. And Sam said that he wants to play JTE. He said that he can't wait for action as well as far as teams go. Rachel was kicking herself over the fact that she knew that BFG question. So it frustrates me when you know she's so good and sometimes a little more time would do right by her. And checking back my notes, she did not use Josh McCouga's JTE rule. So if she gave herself a little more time in these cases, we might have a different outcome on our hands. But look, the future is still bright for the Crusher. She's the Rookie of the Year. We still have a chance to see her at Spectacular because she's going to be in that Inner Geekdom 4-way coming up. Inman and Emma are facing off to be the fourth player in that, but Koi Jean-Dro will be playing. Jay Washington will be playing Rachel, of course, the winner of Emma and Inman. So I'm going to go with Rachel to win that, but that's a story for another time. We still don't have any updates on the Nerds Watch situation. Part of this has to be a distraction for Rachel. I think Ken should have come out to support her already, considering that she put the ball back in his court a few weeks ago, and he still hasn't given her an answer, which is frustrating. Maybe if she didn't have that on her mind, perhaps she would have had his support to win this match. But there was a nice quick ad for the app, of course, a new ad for the app. Then it cut to a setup for Frank, which I think works beautifully as far as transitioning. Now, I want to talk about statistics real quick. And I know I'm going long here. I know I'm ranting a little bit here. But this is something that I talked to Frank about. He knows I'm about to address this. So this is not me trying to second guess our co-host. It is something that I'm raising for discussion because I think it's damn interesting. Now, I talked about Sam's perfect round 2, which is a rarity between singles and teams. It's only happened about 9 times. This was the first time in this tournament that it happened. It did not happen in the team tournament, so that shows you how difficult round 2s are. Now, I contend that Sam only missed 1 question in this match. Now, in Frankie J's segment, the Schmoedown Breakdown, he noted that Sam missed 2 questions. And the reason he put 2 questions was because he is counting the missed steal opportunity on Sophie in the BFG as a question against Sam's accuracy rate. I'm bringing this up partially because I know you guys are sports fans. I'm arguing that missed steals should not count against your overall question accuracy. For example, if Aaron Rodgers draws the defense offside, the play continues, and the offense gets what is called a free play in football. So if Rodgers draws the defense offside and then he throws for a 55-yard touchdown, guess what? That touchdown counts. They took advantage of the defense being offside and they converted. Had Rodgers not converted that free play, they would have just accepted the offside penalty and been given 5 yards. So if Rodgers threw an incompletion, that incompletion on that free play is not going to count against his completion rate. You only count it if it's successful. So I'm arguing that Sam should not have a question counted against him when it really wasn't his question. It was a bonus question. It was Rachel's question, and the points were bonus points. Let's look at basketball. If I drive to the hoop and I'm fouled and I miss the shot, that missed shot does not count against my field goal percentage. I get to go to the line, I get to shoot some free throws. The free throws count for my free throw percentage, but that missed shot as I was fouled does not hurt my field goal percentage. Had I made the shot, I would have gotten the and one situation, and that converted shot, that made shot, would have counted towards my field goal percentage. So in this case, I had to contend that Sam only missed 1 question because the question that is considered Frank's second miss was just a steal opportunity. It wasn't his question. I don't think you should be punished for not converting on what is essentially a free play. I don't think you should be punished for not making a shot in which you were fouled. Commenters, let me know what you think about this. Should steal opportunities, the questions asked, be counted against players as far as their question accuracy rate? I don't think they should, because they are not their questions, and these are bonus points. These are based on the opponent's error, the opponent's fault, just like an offside penalty, just like a foul. Last point. Rachel did not go to multiple choice on that BFG question. She went right in with a guess, and she missed it. So it's especially harsh that we would punish Sam's accuracy rate when he does not have the option of multiple choice on the steals. So I absolutely think steals or a lack of steal or failed steal should count against your steal accuracy rate, but I do not think a missed steal should count against your overall question accuracy rate. So guys, I've ranted on, but I think it's an interesting point. It's an interesting discussion. Have at it in the comments, and Frank knows I'm bringing this up, and I cannot wait to talk to him about it when he returns next week.
You know, I understand your point 100%. And here's the thing about the Schmoedown, right? It's a lot like MMA, mixed martial arts. They're still implementing rules because the sport's so young, and they're still trying to figure out all the ins and outs of how to, rank guys, statistics, whatnot, rules, instant replay. Should you have it? Should you not have it? And I think these conversations, these things, these ideas, people commenting, it is only going to grow the sport of the Schmoedown. It's only going to grow the sport of the Schmoedown, and it's only going to make it better. I think with any sport, even the long-standing great American pastime, baseball, which, by the way, the Houston Astros are the world champions, brother. Oh,
congratulations! I can't believe we buried the lead.
We are the the Astros. Oh yeah.
Game 5 was the greatest
baseball game I've ever seen. But I just to go to your point, I think that healthy conversation about stuff like that always helps improve a sport. And I'm excited to see kind of what the commenters will say about that one.
Yeah, and that's all I'm doing because this is such a young league still. We're still figuring some things out, and the season's about to end. In between the seasons, in between season 4 and season 5, there's going to be a long discussion about certain rules, what we should revise, and I think looking at certain aspects of these stats that we want to emphasize, such as this, should be looked at. I'm not saying we retcon all of the stats to this point. The stats are valid as they are, but moving forward, perhaps we shouldn't punish players for missing a steal on somebody else's question.
Brad, quick comment. I'm glad that the Astros won the World Series. I'm also sorry that the cost of it was Deshaun Watson's knee. I apologize for that.
Ooh.
You know what? If we had to, if the football gods and the sports gods of Houston said, hey, Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, you're going to have to take one for the Houston Astros, or take two in this case, I'm weirdly okay with that. I'm okay with that. We got a championship out of it. I don't think we were going to have a Super Bowl winning season with the Houston Texans. I'll let it happen. I'm okay right now as long as next season everyone's healthy.
Let's not forget you lost Will Fuller for the season as soon as Deshaun went down. So that's a season-ending injury right there.
Hey, come on now. What are you trying to do?
You know what
are you trying to do? You trying to kill me here? I'm trying to say it's positive. I'm an eternal optimist. The Astros are the World Series champions. Can you dig it?
He's nice enough to be a guest on the show, and we completely bury him. Wow.
and the Dynamo, by the way, our MLS team, is 1 or 2 games away from the championships. So I'm just saying Houston's doing pretty good in sports right now. Sans the Houston Rockets just beat the Cleveland Cavaliers a couple nights ago. So Houston sports doing okay.
And next weekend, Survivor Series and War Games, both in Houston,
which I will be attending. So everything is going great.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next recap. We had some kayfabe going on before the matchup between Thad and Grace Hancock, and Thad made a ruling that Grace would not be interviewing JTE after this match, and possibly down the road, no Lion's Den specialty interviewer stuff going on. Thad wants Emma as a impartial, quote unquote, interviewer if she is available. I had a problem with this, and I'll tell you why. It's not necessarily the ruling itself that's fine. It's that Grace basically cursed out Thad, who is the commissioner of this league. And if I'm Thad, this is like the first time Thad's been on camera other than his entrance. I would have suspended her. I would have said, hey, I'm the commissioner. This is the ruling. You can't be telling me F off and all that kind of stuff. So you're suspended. So we got nothing here. So I don't know if I like the undermining of authority already. I feel like if you're coming in, you got to come in hot. You got to come in with an iron fist. And I feel like it's a missed opportunity here.
First off, I love this kayfabe bit. I love the administrative kayfabe. I like when you have the chairman or the commissioner, Thad in this case. I like when they do it from this angle. I don't know if it would have worked as well with Christian, just because we know Christian so well, and we don't know Thad nearly as well. So this type of sketch plays differently than it would with Christian. Of course, Heather Grace Hancock can show off her acting chops that she sharpened via The Shape recently, but in this case, I found it to be very, very effective. And guys, we've talked about this a lot on the show, but we've said that this Grace-Emma feud, this face interviewer, this heel interviewer, this situation has to come to a head. So I'm not going to be one of those shows that tries to take credit for ideas and whatnot. We are part of the conversation. Sometimes we inspire certain things. Sometimes it's just a big collective brainstorm, but it seems like they're listening to the audience as far as wanting to resolve this Grace Emma thing, because it was going on for a bit too long. I don't know how else they could have resolved this. I don't think a match between them would have made much sense, but I took issue not with Thad's decision. I took issue with the fact that he tried to imply that Emma is impartial when everybody knows she's been the face interviewer. Everybody knows that she has shaded the heels. And as we talked about before, she tried to suggest that JSR had the most opponents' choices spun in his case. And as we discussed last week, that wasn't the case. He's never had any in singles or teams. So I'm not going to compare Emma or make a political reference to Emma in this case, but she does kind of stretch the facts because she is the face interviewer. She wants to put over the faces, and I'm very disappointed that Thad, as much as I respect him as commissioner, I love the choice once again, I love his camera presence, this guy's got talent, and he shouldn't be in the dark editing room all the time, as he's proving, but I'm very disappointed that Jen Sturger was not mentioned when she has been the impartial interviewer from day one. She's been the neutral interviewer from day one. The fact that her name wasn't even mentioned in this sketch really kind of bothers me. I mean, she's so qualified for this role. She just got a gig with NBC doing some MMA stuff. She's worked sidelines for the NFL. She is so talented. And I just want to make sure that she's mentioned whenever the subject comes up of who's calling interviews and whatnot. So there was a nice little poll on Facebook about whether people want to see her call a match at the table. And it was a huge landslide majority in her favor. We're all fans. We all want to see more of her. And it sounds like the audience does too, based on that poll. So I'm just disappointed she was omitted. But Brad, any thoughts on this kayfabe between Thad and Grace as she told Thad to go F himself?
As far as I'm concerned, Grace Hancock can do whatever she wants. I'm a big fan of Grace Hancock. I think that she works well with the Lions Den. And hey, it's okay. It's okay to be partial sometimes. I mean, come on, guys. Let's not fool ourselves. You think that we're all impartial? No, we have our favorites. We have our people that we dislike. And it's okay to be transparent at times. So Grace Hancock should have remained as the Lions Den interviewer. She should remain. She should be the interviewer for everybody, as far as I'm concerned. Emma Fyffe can take a long walk off a short pier. Ooh, to quote Biff Tannen. I'm just kidding. That was kind of harsh. I like Emma Fyffe, but my point is, I like Grace Hancock. She should remain in her role.
More on Biff Tannen later, but. Aren't you a Sturger fan, though? You've got to be a Sturger fan.
I'm a Sturger fan. Yeah, hell yeah, I'm a Sturger fan. And I think that, you know, she can do the interviews. Here's the thing, guys. You know, you have your Mean Genes, right? And you have your constants throughout the wrestling world. But there are all kinds of great backstage interviewers. You know, we've seen Mean Gene evolve into Renee Young. And I think that you can cycle through. You can have multiple. There can be more than one. There could be a universe where Emma Fyffe, Grace Hancock, and Jen Sturger all coexist and all have equal representation on the Schmoedown. And I think that is a world that we would all like to live in.
You brought up some great points, but I mean, this overall is the kind of kayfabe that I want to see, you know, versus people coming out and crashing matches, which opens up a can of worms for a variety of reasons. But this is a very effective piece, and I've got a new hashtag for Jen Sturger. That's hashtag fervor for Sturger. So, folks, fervor for Sturger.
Hello everyone, your faithful host Aaron here. Do you like what you're hearing so far on the rundown? Great. Give us a thumbs up if you're listening on YouTube. Leave a comment. Join the discussion. Listening via iTunes, please rate and review the Schmoes Know iTunes feed. It helps us out tremendously. It helps us move up and down on the charts. That way more people can listen and more people can get involved. We would really appreciate it. Be sure to check out the other shows on SK Plus on YouTube. There is something different for you every single day. Different shows with different personalities. You can't go wrong. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at SD Rundown and email us anytime. Schmoedownrundown@gmail.com. And now back to Back to me.
Of course, we're talking about Mike KO Kalinowski versus JTE, a.k.a. Little Evil, a.k.a. JTC, Josh the Champion. Now, JTE had a great moment in the promo, guys, where, he's really pushing the Kalinowski's vanilla, he's white bread. Even Kalinowski kind of calls himself that. He's embraced it, he's owned it. He's saying people choke on white bread. But, Aaron, there was a wonderful moment in regard to JTE's promo and smack against KO. So tell us the origin of this great line, and what was that line?
Oh, JT's calling Mike Kalinowski Vanillanowski. And that was a great line from JT, which, if you believe the rumors that I've heard, it actually came from one Tom Dagnino. So it doesn't surprise me that Tom is helping out a little bit on the promo work. I happen to think that this is some of JT's always good on the mic, in my opinion, especially lately. But I happen to think this is his best stick work so far. The comment about the record scratch, Vanillanowski, it's just top-notch heel stuff from JT, even though we'll talk about that later. And then Kalinowski with his bread comeback about choking on stale bread, I thought that was awesome. It was a good comeback from Mike. Pretty good stuff here in these promos. A lot of good stuff going back and forth. I liked it.
I thought this was JTE healing off the best that he's healed off in a long time. Like, I really think when it comes to promos, JTE knows his character and he's firing on all cylinders. And I know that's like a worn out expression, but JT's really killing it right now. He from a wrestling fan, I would boo this man if he walked into a WWE arena.
Boo this man. I like it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dagnino was doing work on the new Shazam film with Zachary Levi, so he couldn't be there. But this is a sign of a good manager when he's supplying his players with primetime smack talk like Vanillanowski. That's just great stuff. And there's a line that JTE said a few matches ago after a title win. I'm blanking on it at the moment. We even tweeted it out. But yeah, this has been a season-long trend where JTE has just been dropping bombs left and right, some of the best stuff of his life as far as I'm concerned. So it's been the year of JTE, it's been the year of Samm Levine. The Player of the Year honor, this is probably going to be the closest race we'll ever see for Player of the Year because there are so many viable candidates when you think about it. But I love JTE's confidence. He says he's going to win the whole damn thing. There was some question about whether Grace would walk him out. Of course, she brought him out. KO, he's really embracing the fact that he is the heir apparent to the faces that have left this league, the mega faces that have left this league. Riley, Merle, I still believe Riley is returning as a heel. Maybe soon, who knows? I still think that retirement stuff's a big smokescreen, but right now KO is the face that we need, and I love the hero's entrance. He's really playing it up. I am disappointed, though, that he didn't bring any gifts for JTE. That was kind of his gimmick, as we talked about last week with him, so gifts can really be the ultimate way for a face to talk some smack in an innocent way without actually having to talk. So I feel a bit robbed there. I'm a little disappointed that both guys really didn't have their entourages with them. Grace was there, of course. Johnny would be there later. He had to rush over from a Justice League screening, so we forgive him for showing up late. But all in all, good introduction. What's next?
Let's get into round one, where it was JT and Mike Kalinowski both getting 5 points. So we're at a tie here in round one. A couple things. Question 6 for JT, confusing David Spade and James Spader, was amazing. I love that quite a bit.
I thought he said David Slade.
He did say David Slade, but he meant David Spade, which was, it's even funnier to think of Ultron saying life's a garden, dig it. Can't believe that. That would be amazing. And he missed the Burt Reynolds question in the longest yard, so that's 2 misses that, JT even said it himself, he should have got those. But that was kind of confusing, but 5-5 here after 1. Brad, what was your takeaway here?
Yeah, I mean, what did JT say? He said Paul Newman, I think, instead of Burt Reynolds. And I want to say that Kalinowski incorrectly, even though Burt Reynolds is called, is known for his mustache, I do believe in the original Longest Yard he had no mustache. Just throwing that out there. But here's my biggest beef with this round. Great showing from both guys. JT should have done better. It should have been probably 7-5. But question 2 was, what was the name of Will Ferrell's character in Old School?
Oh, man.
Now, JT got Frank the Tank. Kalinowski said the tank, and Kalinowski was incorrect. He chose not to challenge that decision. I think that was a poor decision. As we see it later in the match, he never used that challenge. I think if it's even close, if you even think he got a small chance, or as we say in Texas, a snowball's chance in hell of getting that right, I think he should have gone for it. And you know what? If I'm one of the judges who's looking at this and trying to decide, do we give him this challenge? I think it would have ruled in favor of him. Now, I'm not, Frank's not here. Maybe one of you can cite a prior challenge where they wouldn't go in this direction, where they wouldn't rule in his favor. But the tank, it says, what's the name of his character? Didn't say his full name. Didn't say his last name. Didn't say his first name. Didn't say his nickname. What's his name? His name was, correctly, technically, the tank. So that was my big beef in this first round.
Bryan, what was your takeaway here? Did you also have beef with Frank the Tank?
I have issues with the fact that Kalinowski omitted several words from several answers that ultimately cost him the match. And yeah, why not challenge? I mean, there's no guarantee you're going to have a challengeable question later in the match, so why not? It did say, what was his name, but a nickname can technically be considered a name. The thing is, though, Frank the Tank is such a famous character name that I don't think they would have given him the point, just because Frank the Tank is one of those character names that is famous for a variety of reasons. People quote that character name a lot. So in this case, while I'm always in favor of leeway, it's a leeway league for the most part, because of how famous that character is, I don't think he would have gotten the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, but here's the thing. And we know I'm Back to the Future obsessed, so this is going to be my reference. If someone said, what is Thomas F. Wilson's name in Back to the Future? And he just said Biff. Wouldn't that be correct? Not Biff Tannen. Everyone knows the full name, Biff Tannen. We all know Biff Tannen. Or say he said Doc and not Doc Brown. I still think that'd be correct. It's a part of the name, but if it didn't say the character's full name, I think that they should rule in favor of the tank, because even though it is only a partial a piece of the name, a partial name, if you will, a nickname, it was still correct. It wasn't wrong. It's not like his name wasn't the Tank. His name was Frank the Tank. I get it. But he's hey, you got Frank the Tank. That's 3 words. He got 2 out of 3. I think they rule in favor of him. In my opinion. This is just my opinion. Yeah. These are my views.
This is why we do the show. This is why we do this show, to debate these points. And in the case of Biff, that's his first name. I think they would have given it to him. They've done that in the past when it comes to name questions. If he just gave the last name, they would have given it to him. But
okay, but then what about Doc? Doc's a nickname. His name's Emmett L. Brown.
Marty calls Doc throughout the movie, so it's perfectly acceptable as a name. Is there a point in old school? Is there a point in old school where they say just the Tank? Where they refer to him, hey, the Tank.
We'd have to look at the tape.
That's the thing. I don't think that happens in the film where it's like, hey, the Tank, or hey, Tank. I think it's always Frank the Tank or just Frank, from my recollection. But I always side in these situations. I'm on your side here. So he should have challenged. Why not? Just
100%.
See what happens at the very least. Question 3. Jeff Nichols' Midnight Special, one of my favorite movies of that year that it came out. I can't believe neither player got it. Come on, guys. Come on. They got the Megan Fox, Jennifer's Body question.
JTE barely got that one. I thought he was going to forget that one.
Yeah, he had to use Josh McCouga's JTE rule, but he pulled it out, and I love when people use that rule and convert it successfully. I love that they both got the Children of Men question. The James Spader question, my goodness. That tied it up, though. And Kalinowski had one of his best in-game lines when he said, I'll help you remember. Boom, James Spader. So one of those ultimate moments that'll be on Kalinowski's highlight reel for a long time. Lucy Liu in Pei, or as Pei, Shanghai Noon. Another example of Kalinowski being so close, yet incorrect at the same time. He said Shanghai Nights. So this first round was really an indicator of how Kalinowski was in the ballpark, but he wasn't quite there. And I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those guys who uses that argument of, oh, well, he knew the actor or he knew the actress. I don't like that justification. Just because you knew who the person is, you knew what they look like, you still have to be correct for the most part. So just because you said Shanghai and you knew the movie in your mind, you can't just change the second word. So anyways, great back and forth first round, 5-5, a very Matt Nost-esque first round.
On round 2 was Mike Kalinowski going first, and he got Sly and Arnie on a second spin. He goes 2 of 4. He got 3 points. JTE, 2 points on steals. Rambo, First Blood Part 2. And Antonio Tarver, who played Mason the Line Dixon in Rocky Balboa. Of course, JT's going to know those. 8-7 Mike here after his turn. Brad, what'd you think here, man? Sly and Arnie for Mike.
He seemed excited, right? When he got Sly and Arnie, he's like, okay, I can do this. And he had a rough round. And I got to say, Sly and Arnie, a category that comes up a lot, people like to go with. We know this is Mark Ellis's bread and butter. But I think that this is when they start to get into the deeper questions. And with what was the question was like the Rambo First Blood Part 2 question where James Cameron had a writing credit. I had no clue. And maybe that's a well-known thing. I had no idea. I'd never heard that before. It was really surprising and shocking to me. No idea. And JT jumped right over it. And Kalinowski obviously drew a blank on it too. So the more difficult questions were coming in here for Kalinowski, and he really didn't capitalize on what he thought would have been an easy category. But once again, when you go to the well one too many times, you get real deep.
Bryan, your takeaway.
Kalinowski made many mistakes in this match, and it pains me to say that considering I picked him to go to the final, Aaron. You picked him to win. This was poor execution as far as strategy. Besides the fact that he omitted words on several questions that he was right for the most part, but he omitted key words that would have actually made them correct. But in this case, you first spin ScarJo, you spin again, you get Sly and Arnie. That wasn't worth the risk when JTE is the strongest in this league when it comes to Sly and Arnie. The respin was killer in this case, no pun intended, because JTE can steal any question that KO misses, and he did. He absolutely did. He stole the Cameron question, Rambo 2. He stole the Antonio Tarver question. So this was a bad strategy in the case of Kalinowski. You cannot risk a second spin when you've got Sly and Arnie on the board, and JTE can kill you in that category, and that's exactly what he did. It was a 3-point turn for KO Kalinowski, and I'm sorry, ScarJo, she's not that difficult a category. She's very popular. I would have absolutely gone with her and at least made sure that JTE steals would not be as easy as Antonio Tarver in Rocky Balboa. Now, to follow up my previous rant, since JTE converted 2 of these steals, those questions count for his question accuracy because he converted the bonus free throws. He converted the free plays per the analogies that I gave. Had he missed these steals, they would not have affected his question accuracy because they're not his questions. They're just bonus points that are allotted to him because KO made an error or a mistake or a foul.
Let's go to JTE's turn. He spun Kevin Smith movies and stuck with it. 3 of 4 for 6 points. Mike Kalinowski did add a 1-point steal with Liv Tyler from Jersey Girl. I'm a huge fan of this category, but at the end of round 2, JTE leads 13-9. He's really getting on a roll here. Brad, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, the to go to the ScarJo thing real quick, I still think that's a more difficult category than most people think that it might be, but he might have fared off better than that, better than he did in Sly and Arnie.
If you look at the rest of the wheel, there were so many JTE strengths besides just Sly and Arnie. I mean, the wheel was loaded with things that are right in JTE's wheelhouse. And Kalinowski, he's got to look at that wheel and evaluate that in case of drawing a category like Sly and Arnie that JTE can then steal. So when you have ScarJo, you've got to go with it because there were too many categories on the board that JTE could have throttled him in when it comes to steals. And that's exactly what happened with Sly and Arnie. So you can't mess with JTE on Sly and Arnie, just like you can't mess with JTE when it comes to Kevin Smith because he used to work with Kevin Smith.
Yeah, it was a great, I didn't know that, but it was a great category, and it was a great run from JTE. When he got this Kevin Smith category, you could tell, okay, I got this. You could tell he had that kind of look about him. Yeah. And the questions, although I think he kind of got tripped up on the Jersey Girl question 4, I do believe, he was very strong. I mean, the Tusk answer, boom, right off the top of his head. Clerks were the first appearance of Silent Bob. He knew this. He knew his stuff. He knew Kevin Smith. This wasn't surprising to him at all. None of these questions really, really caught him off guard. But Kalinowski, big steal with that question 4.
Besides Fredo Knapsack and myself, the only person more popular in this online YouTube movie space is Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith wins every single poll. He's the most requested person when it comes to potential celebrity players being on the Schmoedown. And this generation, my generation, our generation, JTE's generation, we know Kevin Smith's work so damn well. And that's beside the fact that JTE used to engineer his shows for another channel. So as soon as JTE got this wheel spin, the match was over in my mind. It was absolutely over. He almost had a perfect round. He missed the Jersey Girl question, which is understandable. Not one of Smith's most beloved works, but it was a guessable question. It was an answerable question. So regardless, 6-point round for JTE out of 8 available points. At least KO kept himself in the match somewhat by getting that Liv Tyler steal. So at least we had some hope for a KO win by getting that steal, but still the match was decided by the time round 3 started.
Let's go ahead and talk about round 3. Mike was up first. He got the 2-pointer right away. Jerry Orbach was Baby's father in Dirty Dancing, also Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast, and Lenny Briscoe on Law and Order. But
the ghost of Miss Movies!
That was a great line. 13-11 JT at this point. Mike was up for the 3, missed it, answered it a little quick, went with Time, and it was In Time, the Justin Timberlake film. Man, tough miss there. 13-11 it stays. Mike had to get the 5 to stay in it. Eric Bana played Prince Hector in Troy. I actually really enjoyed that film. 16-13 Mike Kalinowski, and we head over to JTE's side. Right away, he gets the 2-pointer. Martin Lawrence was Mike Lowry's partner in Bad Boys. 16-15 Mike here. Guys, it's a 2-point question in the 3rd round. Why is this such a hard concept? They're tiered questions. I don't understand it. It drives me insane. But anyway.
Yeah,
Still, for a 2-pointer.
I know they're tiered questions, but for it to be round 3 2-pointer, I could understand a round 1 question. I can understand if you spun Will Smith movies in round 2. Round 3, here's the thing. It was such an obvious answer. I mean, it was just such an obvious answer. I normally, and I'm with you, man, I normally don't have an issue with the easier round 3 2-pointers, but that one was just, I just thought that one was just so, such an obvious question. I mean, especially compared to, even though, Kalinowski's 2-point question, that's a great 2-point question.
It's for hard. Round 3. It's a hard question.
It was hard, but it was hard. But Dirty Dancing is such an iconic film. If you've seen the film, you pretty much you can surmise who that might be. With this one, I think even if you hadn't seen Bad Boys, it's Martin Lawrence, and it's really not. I don't even really feel like it's showing any skill at all. I mean, that's just like a general knowledge. That's a who shot JFK kind of question.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this though. Tougher question, do you think? In let's go back to round 1. Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys or James Spader in Ultron? Which one's harder?
I think James Spader in Ultron. You don't see his face. Right. You have to know the voice, and you have to. And James Spader isn't a name that I think just rolls off the tongue, which is why JT said David Slade.
Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are so recognizable as Bad Boys. They've made 2 films. Those posters always pop up. They're always mentioned on this channel. The ghost of Josh McCouga, apparently. The ghost of Josh McCouga is helping JTE, apparently. But when you compare the 2-pointers, a Jerry Orbach poll versus a Martin Lawrence poll, that is an extreme difference right there, but that's part of the game. It's part of the game. But in this case, the 3-pointer, KO Scott Manstead. He rushed. He did not take his time, no pun intended. The film was in time. He left off the inn. He knew the movie, as people say, but he didn't know the answer. And you gotta take your time, especially in round 3, especially the match to go to the final. You cannot rush these. That's my one criticism of Mike, is that he's got a little bit of that jumpiness like Scott Mantz, where he's so excited to answer that when you rush the answer, you leave off a word that you would absolutely know after the fact, but you're so excited that you know it, you forget an easy part of the question. Kind of like that good as it gets moment, but that's a different story. Now, Martin Lawrence, that's up there with the recent Bill Pullman in Independence Day. Who was the president in Independence Day? That was previously one of the easiest 2-pointers we've ever seen. This might surpass that, I don't know, but JTE then, he had to bounce right back though. The Blazing Saddles villain, Henry Lamar, I believe that's the name, couldn't pull it. So, still a match at this point. KO's got the 1-point lead. It comes down to JTE's 5. And real quick, Aaron, I'm with you. I kind of like Troy as well. It's not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. But JTE's 5. What's one of the products that Wayne mocks in Wayne's World? JTE takes his time. He takes his time like a savvy veteran player is known to do, and answers Doritos. JTE wins. JTE wins. So at least KO's rushed 3-pointer proved to be moot. He could have answered it, gotten the 3 points, but he still would have lost based on JTE getting his 5. So
to go back to the Martin Lawrence thing for 1 second, I'm not taking anything away from JTE, nor do I think that it's a bad question and shouldn't be in the round 3. JTE it's the luck of the draw. Kalinowski could have gotten the same question had he picked that category. I just thought it was a little bit of an obvious answer, but hey, maybe someone out there actually didn't know, upon reflection. But to go back to JTE, the 5-pointer, he used his JTE rule once again to perfection, repeat the question. He could see, it's one of those things, as the question was asked, I was going through Wayne's World in my head, and I could see Wayne holding up the items. I could see it, but it was like one of those things where like you see somebody but you can't see their face. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know who they are, but you can't see the face, or you can see the face, and you can't see the name. And I just couldn't get it out. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. This one's actually kind of different. Is he going to get it? Is he going to get it? And as soon as he said Doritos, it instantly, the scene popped in my head. The rest of the image filled out. I knew exactly that was correct. When Nabsock was saying, and your winner, I already knew the 3 letters that were going to follow it.
I loved how Nabsock has played a lot of these and your winner moments. He has really hung and timed these properly as far as building the most suspense possible.
This is my favorite question in Schmoedown history, the Wayne's World question. This is one of my top 5 favorite films of all time. I love this film.
Did you write this question?
I did not. I knew this answer right away. I'm very glad that JT asked a clarifying question, which he just ended up having repeated, Wayne or Garth, because, Wayne has Pizza Hut, Doritos, Pepsi, and Garth reps all Reebok gear. So it could have easily gone the other way had he not maybe repeated the question. Love it. I'm glad that JT won. Sorry for Mike. I know he was a guest on last week's show. Love the guy, but I'm happy for JT.
You know what? And just to backdoor that for a second, that is a perfect. I know I was a little critical of that first question, the 2-pointer. That is a perfect 5-point question.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of the best 5-point questions I think they've had because it was difficult, but it wasn't like, let me jump off a bridge difficult. You know what I mean? It was it was a very good, well thought out question, and props to the writers on that one. That was a great question.
And if Clark Wolf was in this position, she would have to answer all 3. But anyway, that's a story for another time. So
a gun rack?
Oh God, I could do it all day. JTE 20-16 over Mike Kalinowski. He goes to the final. He'll be facing Samm Levine, the Inglorious One. These guys, man, wow! Who would have thought? In particularly in JTE's case here, who would have thought the same guy that lost to Josh McCouga in a play-in game last year, JT wasn't even in the tournament. He couldn't even get in because he lost to Josh McCouga. And this year, he's in the finals. And he could very well have 2 belts by the end of the season, which is just absolutely insane. He beat McWeeny. He beat Snyder. He beat Mike Kalinowski to get here. Wow. An incredible tournament run for this guy.
You know, even if he doesn't pull it out and beat Samm Levine for the Ultimate Schmoedown, which I think he will, but even if he doesn't, he has a super strong case for Player of the Year. I mean, just for the run that the Patriots have gone on in tag or in team division, and then look at the names you just said. I mean, he beat the Godfather. He beat
Bibbs.
He beat Bibbs. He beat the Insider, Jeff Snyder. I mean, God, he's had a hell of a run. And I expect this finals between him and Samm Levine to be a knockdown, drag out, as a great Southerner from Oklahoma might say, it's going to be a slobber knocker.
No, by God.
By God. That man's got a family.
He's 9-1 between singles and teams in 2017. He is absolutely the front runner for Player of the Year right now. But let's not forget, Samm Levine, if he beats JTE, he also has the potential to end this year with both belts, assuming Above the Line beats Action. So it's amazing that both players have the chance to be playing for both belts at Spectacular. That is remarkable, considering how bad their luck was in 2016, considering how everything went wrong for both guys in 2016. It's unbelievable what the Schmoedown does. It's just, I cannot believe this, guys. I can't.
Hell of a run. Let's get into the post-match interview where JTE was telling Emma that he was picked by destiny to finish this tournament off, and Grace Hancock walked away. Samm Levine had a little bit of a run in there, saying, and then JT coming back to Levine saying he's not on his level and that he's the size of an ant.
Grace ignored Fife's question about JTE's win, and then Grace walked off. So she's not happy that she's not doing the interviews. She's protesting Thad's decision, but it seemed like she was hurting JTE as well. Like, she left JTE alone to deal with Emma, and I felt like she ended up hurting JTE more than making a point about her lack of interviewing. So JTE gave a weird look. He didn't really have a way to respond to it. So I thought Grace walking off wasn't as much of a protest as she wanted it to be. I thought it was a really bad thing to do to your winning stablemate. You got to be there to support your stablemate and get in Fife's face. If you're mad at Thad, don't just walk off and let Emma win. I don't know, Brad, how do you see this?
Obviously, you know, Hancock, she's a little hot under the collar right now. And that's okay. That's okay. We'll see how it plays out down the road. You know what? I mean, I want to more talk about JTE saying Samm Levine isn't on his level. And when you think about it, he's coming, and I would love to know the amount of correct questions answered between the both of them in 2017. That's it, Frank. If you're listening, that's a stat I would love to know. Who has answered, you know, more correct questions in 2017, Samm Levine or JTE? Because JTE has pulled out more answers from places that I didn't even know that he had. I don't even know what that sentence means, but he did it. You know, and I think he's been so impressive. But I think Samm Levine, what did Roddy Piper say? You don't throw rocks at a man with a machine gun.
Damn right.
And Samm Levine is definitely packing. And this is going to be – I'm so excited for this match. I am so – like I said, I'm going to go out on a limb. JT is my guy. I'm going to pick JTE. He's been on such a roll, especially the competition that he's defeated to get to this point. But it's going to be whoever wins. It's kind of like the MVP race. I'm still waiting to hear who the AL MVP is between Jose Altuve or Aaron Judge. You know, I think Altuve's got it. He's my guy. He's a Houstonian, I should say. But whoever wins that is well deserved. Whoever wins this JTE and the Inglorious One match, it's well deserved, man.
See, Sam has played less matches than JTE this year. You know, JTE's 9-1. I believe Sam is 6-1. So JT's definitely answered more questions, but I am curious, like you, as far as accuracy, and I'm sure next week when we see these two square off head-to-head, level to level, I'm sure Frank will have accuracy ready to go. Not to set any expectations for Frank when he's not here, but these guys have had very similar 2016s and now very similar 2017s, and it's only fitting that they would square off in the team title match at Spectacular if Above the Line can top action next week as well. So amazing how these guys are so in the thick of everything. But
it might also go down as feud of the year.
We'll see. I mean, there's so many feuds. I got to think about that. But Kalinowski, Miss Movies is up there certainly. There are a lot of feuds. You know, Roka's face persona, quote unquote, versus Roka's heel persona. That's been quite the feud. Turner, just backing up for a second, do you think Grace did a disservice to her stablemate?
I mean, we've seen the precedent a couple matches ago when Grace, you know, when they were congratulated, I forget what the match even was, but the Lions Den players were congratulating a team on doing well against them or something like that. And Grace was like, "What? Why are you doing that? Like, they're losers." And we saw a little bit of dissension there. I'm not saying there's a breakup coming, but it seems like maybe, and I'm going to use an insider term here, and I'm sorry for doing it, but it looks like maybe Grace is going into business for herself a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what you just described, she's done that a couple times where she's rolled her eyes at the Lions Den, giving respect to the opponent. So this hurt JTE more than it was a protest towards that. That's the way that I read it. That's the way that it felt. Again, go back and look at JTE's face when she walked off. He was like a deer in headlights, frozen in headlights. It was just a strange moment all around. And as I've said before, as far as Grace, please get some more words in your arsenal. Girl Scout, sassy, Boy Scout. There's more options out there.
Well, let's go to the Mike Kalinowski side of it. And for the most part, it was pretty run-of-the-mill stuff for Mike. And Johnny Lacroix was there. I'm a big fan of Johnny. I'm a big advocate. I make a personal rule on this show. I don't put myself over, or at least try not to. But I put myself over this time because I said long ago, put Johnny Lacroix on the mic because the dude's got skills and the guy can spit fire. My word, Johnny Lacroix on the stick this week brought the wood. Listen to this.
Now, Johnny, you are standing here supporting Mike Kalinowski today as a member of the league should. What do you have to say about your teammates' performance?
Well, Mike, first thing, I have to correct you. You are still the hero. There's a reason Adam, Roxy, and I said, Mike, go out there by yourself. You got this. And that's perfectly okay. We're looking ahead to the Spectacular, which brings me to the Lions Den. You need to listen right now. Look, up until now, the league, we've been relatively silent. We believe in the process of speak softly, carry, and swing a big stick. And as you can tell by Mike Kalinowski's performances, he has that big stick. But the Lions Den, the league has an issue with you. Because together, you all have the moral compass of someone who would sell a dead bird to a blind kid. And yes, that's a Dumb and Dumber reference, because Dumb and Dumber are the name of Tom Dagnino's parents. Tom, Finstock. It doesn't matter how many personalities you have inside of that dirty, water-infested used bong that you call a brain. The one thing all those personalities have in common, if I could borrow a word from the lioness, is that they're all losers. And that's why you have so much protection around you. JTE, a man whose ego is going to catch up with him almost as fast as his hairline. Robert Meyer Burnett, a dude who makes Biff Tannen look like marriage material. Mark Andraco and Jeff Snyder. I actually really enjoy both of your work. And last but not least, the lovely lady. It doesn't matter if you call yourself Grace or Herbie or John Hancock. You're going to rue the day you signed on with the Lions Den, because when all is said and done, it doesn't matter how loud you all roar in the Spectacular when we are all lifting up Adam Gertler and Mike Kalinowski in victory as if their names are Simba. It'll be because we just put all of you down like your names were Mufasa. Unite the league.
Wow. Incredible stuff. I knew Johnny could bring it. I was reading YouTube comments saying, where has this guy been all along? Man, I was glad to see Johnny finally break out. Brad, what did you think of Johnny here?
Well, you know, Johnny and I are friends. I've known Johnny for several years now. Always good to see a familiar face on the Schmoedown. And it's no surprise to me. I know the guy can talk. The guy's a comedian, stand-up comedian. He's worked around wrestling for years now. He is the one of the commentators for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. He's been down to Reality Wrestling here in Houston before. Not surprised at all. I think that I hope we get to see more Johnny LaQuasto. Always a big fan.
Also on the Fight TV app, along with Reality
Also
Wrestling.
on the Fight TV app, as well as Reality Wrestling streaming live every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. Figure it out in your other time zones because I am really bad at that.
Boom, double plug. Brian, what did you think of Johnny here?
It's been a heck of a week for Johnny LaQuasto. He got to see Justice League early. He was not in attendance for his Ray Fisher interview, but he got to send in a video message while the team at DC Movie News was able to do a great interview with Ray Fisher. But Johnny LaQuasto, when they introduced the league, the stable for DC Movie News, he was marked as the mouthpiece. We broke that scoop, I believe, on this very show. And we knew he could bring it. We've been waiting for him to bring it. I love the fact that we talked about this last week with Mike K.O. Kalinowski. We said, hey, does Johnny ever help you out when it comes to writing promos? And K.O., if you go back and listen to his response, he gave kind of a weird response where it didn't quite make sense at the time. But now we understand, per this context, what KO was getting at. He was saying how sometimes Johnny will just be writing stuff and he'll have 2 pages written without any sweat. So this was Johnny LaQuasto's coming out party within the Schmoedown. This is one of the best rants we've ever seen. Easily the best rant since Android, Mark and Draco, dropped fire at Collision. What I like most about this, though, is that it was more of a face rant. You didn't have to go too below the belt. You didn't have to call people names. You didn't have to go after their fashion. He was just clever. He was smart. He was witty. He made Dumb and Dumber references. He made a reference to Biff Tannen in regards to Robert Meyer Burnett. And my God, you make a Biff Tannen reference in comparison to Robert Meyer Burnett, you're doing something right. So, amazing piece of fire-breathing Johnny LaQuasto, guys. Johnny LaQuasto, get used to this guy because it's moments like these that set up future stories, that set up future appearances. And I cannot wait to see what the league does in 2018 because you know KO is still gunning for Bateman. I think KO and Bateman is going to be a big rivalry in 2018. And when you've got LaQuasto on your side, that can really counter the brilliant smack talkers that are Andrew and Ben. Going back to Samm and JTE for a minute, I love the fact that Samm crashed in the post interview once the match was decided. I love the fact that it did not telegraph a future result. It simply previewed the showdown that we're about to enjoy next week. So one of my favorite aspects of this tournament is the fact that they held back on all the interview crashing to avoid telegraphing. So editorial has done a phenomenal job this tournament.
All right, and that's going to do it for our recaps this week. We are going to say goodbye to our good friend and co-host, Mr. Brad Gilmore, for this week. Brad, tell us where you can be found online and where can the people find more of your work?
On all social media, Brad Gilmore. You can find me that way. Heated Conversations every Saturday night. You can get the podcast on iTunes after we air live on Sports Radio 610. Also, Reality Wrestling every Sunday. Got a lot of cool projects in the works. And I don't know if I plugged it the last time, but Back to the Future, the podcast, season 5 is underway right now. A lot of cool guests I'm going to have there. So, yeah, just check me out, Brad Gilmore, and you'll find all my good stuff.
All right, guys, we're back. We're going to give you a little bracket update as we are here towards the finals. My bracket completely trashed. Mike Kalinowski was really my last hope as I had him winning the whole thing. It didn't come to be as he lost here in the semifinals. And on the other side, I had Mark Andreyko, which I don't know why I even predict matches anymore because I'm not even close. In the team tournament, I had Cinema Blend, which was like my dark horse. But anyway, so my bracket is just in shambles. I got nobody left, but I am super excited about the final. I'm going to take JTE over Levine to win. I have no skin in this game. I just think JTE at this moment has a cooler story, though Levine versus Harloff is interesting for, many reasons. Some I can say, some I would get fired over, but it's a very interesting matchup, and I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be great. And Bryan, who do you think is going to take it home? And give me a little bit of your bracket update.
Well, my microphone just exploded, so please pardon the sound change all of a sudden. After a dominant start where I went 11-0, something no one else has ever done in Schmoedown history, I'm now 11-3 since my tourney final projection for New Blood, including a female title contender / crusher, and the inauguration of the heir apparent to the departed faces of Riley, Merle, and Mark Ellis via KO Kalinowski. That projection did not work out as I had hoped. Instead of Crusher versus KO, we've got JTC and Samm Levine, something I'm incredibly happy about. As I said last week, I'm still quite pleased with any combination of players since we're getting different people besides Dan, JSR, Yodi, etc. JTE and Sam were my favorite players before the Collider era began. JTE was the first player I ever endorsed on this podcast channel. I said he had belts in his future on my very first show, but between Sam and JTE, they both have karma on their side, whether it's Sam's free-for-all karma or JTE, given all the crap he's taken over the course of his 38 years of existence, including an awful March 2016 to November 2016. But Spectacular was a sign that the tide was turning for JTE, but few people expected that to carry over into singles. Now, let's not forget, JTE lost to Riley in a singles title match that carried over from the AfterBuzz era. He also lost to the Schmoes in a team title match that carried over to Collider via the AfterBuzz era. So it's been peaks and valleys in JTE's career, and now he's climbing back up that mountain in singles since he's already there in teams. Now, one of the reasons I avoided picking Levine or JTC in the first place was because I didn't think the Schmoedown gods would let them compete potentially for both belts at Spectacular. Above the Line still has to face action, I realize, but regardless of who wins between Josh the Champion and Sam, I really hope that Sam or JTE don't have to play both of their potential title matches at Spectacular on the same day. One of the reasons the greatest Schmoedown champions of all time, the Patriots, were scheduled to blow out Bottom 10 on the 4th of July, besides the obvious team name 4th of July connection, it was because the league didn't want to burn Snyder and JSR out since Snyder was facing Harloff at Collision 3 days later, while JSR was facing Riley and Merle 3 days later at Collision. Furthermore, if you recall last year's Spectacular, JSR had to play Riley in a number 1 contender match right after JSR lost to Robert Duvall and the Patriots in teams, initiating the inevitable Patriots dynasty. So in other words, that 4th of July team title match was basically scheduled to avoid another situation where players are burned out having to play 2 big matches on the same day. Anyway, as far as who wins, I gotta go JTE. Even though Sam, like JTE, had an awful 2016, only it was across the board in singles and teams. Both have major karma on their side, as I keep saying, but JTE has other factors that are bigger than the Schmoedown itself. Those factors will ultimately lead him to face Harloff at Spectacular. Harloff has teased JTE for years, but my God, what a story it would be if JTE is the one to retire Harloff's Schmoedown career.
And we'll close this episode with our segment, Who Won the Week?
I won.
A lot of good options here. You could say Johnny Lacroix won the week. You could say Bryan Johnson, if you want to go outside of the realm. You can say he won the week because he definitely did. But I'm going to give it to actually Samm Levine. I know I picked against him in the tournament final just now, but I think Samm Levine Quite a run he's been on. He beat Bibbs, Roca, and Rachel to get to this point. Just impressive stuff. Only missed one question through the entire contest. Good stuff from Samm on quite the roll. Can't wait to see him. Double feature of Samm Levine next week. Should be pretty interesting. Bryan, who won the week for you?
Johnny Lacroix. Anytime you can compare Robert Meyer Burnett to Biff Tannen, you're doing something right. Ever since we broke the scoop that Johnny would be the mouthpiece for the Schmoedown's league stable, we've been waiting for his coming out party, and he did not disappoint with his fire-breathing rant. Johnny proved that faces and heroes do not have to go below the belt or below the line to effectively talk some smack. So, bravo, Johnny. Bravo. I hope others learn from this moment.
J-Lo, for sure.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Johnny has heard that before, so be careful, Turner.
And that's going to do it for episode number 59 of the Schmoedown Rundown. Big thanks once again to Brad Gilmore. Check him out. His Back to the Future podcast, Heated Conversations with Booker T. Check him out. Of course, Frank Janisch not here, at FrankieJ29 on Twitter, at SD Rundown Stats on Twitter. He will be back with us next week. And Bryan, where can you be found?
Find me on Twitter at BDF331. Check out my TV film podcast at filmschlubspodcast.com. I've got something very cool coming soon. And make sure to follow this show at SD Rundown.
And you can always follow me on Twitter at ATTitanium. And we'll catch you guys next week for Championship Week. We'll see you then.